The scent of fresh pounded yam, egusi soup, and grilled chicken wafted through the open-air dining area of my uncle's compound. Laughter echoed under the mango trees, mixing with the crackle of the evening fire and the low hum of a Christmas carol on the radio. My family had finally made it to the village for the holidays, a trip we hadn't taken in 5 years. I sat on a wooden bench, pulling at the thread of my dress absent-mindedly. My brothers, Kini and Obinna, were bickering over who had scored higher on their online game, while Mama and Papa chatted with my uncle, Uncle Chike, in hushed tones. My younger sister, Ada, clung to my arm, her 6-year-old giggles infectious as she whispered into my ear, "Do you think Santa will find us here, Zara?" "Santa doesn't deliver to villages," I teased. She pouted, and I kissed her forehead. "Don't worry, he'll find you." When the food was served, everyone gathered around the long table. Uncle Chike grinned from ear to ear as he urged us to eat, his voice unnervingly jovial. His wife, Auntie Ifeoma, piled the plates high, her hands trembling as she served. I didn't think much of it then. "Zara, why aren't you eating?" Mama asked, frowning at my untouched plate. "I'm not hungry yet," I lied, my stomach churning. Not from hunger, but unease. I had caught Uncle Chike staring at me earlier, a peculiar gleam in his eyes that sent a shiver down my spine. "Fine, but make sure you eat soon," she said, her tone soft but firm. I excused myself to fetch water from the clay pot by the kitchen. That was when I saw it. Behind the open kitchen door, Uncle Chike whispered furiously with someone, a man I didn't recognize. They spoke in low tones, their words drowned by the clinking of plates and laughter from the dining table. But I heard one phrase that sent chills racing down my spine. "Make sure it's strong enough to finish all of them." I froze, clutching the pot so hard that the clay nearly cracked. My breath caught in my throat. Finish all of them? What did that mean? The man nodded and handed Uncle Chike a small vial before disappearing into the shadows. My uncle slipped the vial into his pocket, adjusted his agbada, and walked out, his face as calm as ever. When I returned to the table, everyone had started eating. I felt the bile rise in my throat as I stared at the food, now sure of what I had to do. "Mama, why is everyone eating without me? We didn't pray together before eating," I said, my voice shaky. Papa glanced at me, his brow furrowed. "Zara, what's wrong? You look pale." "I just feel a little dizzy. I'll be fine," I replied quickly, forcing a smile. I watched in confusion as my family ate, their laughter growing quieter as the minutes passed. Mama was the first to falter. Her fork clattered onto her plate, and she clutched her chest, gasping for air. Papa tried to stand, but his legs gave out beneath him. Keen and Obinna groaned, their faces contorted in pain, while little Ada whimpered, clutching her stomach. I screamed, rushing to Mama's side as chaos erupted around me. "Help! Someone help!" I cried, but Uncle Chike just stood there, his face expressionless. I should probably introduce myself before I go any further. My name is Zara Chukwuma. I am, or was, the firstborn daughter of Dr. Nnamdi Chukwuma, a renowned cardiologist, and Mrs. Amaka Chukwuma, a successful lawyer. My parents were the definition of power and grace, their lives a testament to hard work and resilience. Our home in Lagos was a mansion that echoed with laughter and love. My siblings and I had everything we could ever need: a private tutor, lavish birthday parties, and even weekend trips abroad. Papa was strict but fair, his booming voice filling the house with authority and warmth. Mama was our rock, her hugs a shield against the world's cruelty. Keen, my mischievous 12-year-old brother, dreamed of becoming a pilot. Obinna, just 2 years younger, was the artist of the family, his room plastered with sketches of superheroes and landscapes. And Ada, sweet Ada. She was the light of our lives, her laughter a melody that could brighten even the darkest day. Life in the city was perfect until that Christmas trip to the village. When we arrived in the village, I could sense the tension immediately. Uncle Chike's smile didn't reach his eyes, and the way his wife avoided our gazes made me uneasy. I didn't understand it then, but I do now. You see, Uncle Chike was Papa's brother, the black sheep of the family. While Papa had risen to the top through sheer determination, Uncle Chike had floundered in mediocrity, dabbling in failed businesses and bad decisions. He always blamed Papa for his failures, accusing him of withholding family wealth that should have been shared. Mama warned Papa not to trust him, but Papa, ever the peacemaker, insisted on building bridges. "He's my brother," he'd say. "Family comes first." That night at the table, as my family writhed in agony, I realized how wrong Papa had been. I didn't eat the food, and that's how I survived. But surviving doesn't feel like the right word. Can you really call it survival when your entire world collapses around you? I remember running through the compound, through the village streets, through the darkness. I screamed for help, but no one came. By the time I returned with some villagers, it was too late. My family lay lifeless on the ground, their faces frozen in expressions of pain and betrayal. Uncle Chike was gone, along with his wife and children. The police came the next morning, but they were of little help. "It's a family matter," one officer said dismissively. I was left alone, a 16-year-old girl with no one to turn to. But I wasn't going to let it end there. I couldn't. Uncle Chike thought he had won, but he underestimated me. I stood in the compound, staring at the patch of ground where my family had been buried. The villagers had helped dig the graves, murmuring prayers and shaking their heads at the tragedy. The world around me felt hollow, stripped of all color and sound. Mama, Papa, Kene, Obinna, and little Ada, gone, just like that. The only people who had ever truly loved me were beneath the earth, and the man responsible for their deaths was out there, breathing, living, laughing. I vowed that day that I would find Uncle Chike, and when I did, he would pay. After the funeral, I was taken back to Lagos by Mama's childhood friend, Auntie Rose. She was kind, but the pity in her eyes made me sick. I knew she meant well, but her constant reminders to stay strong and leave vengeance to God fell on deaf ears. Vengeance wasn't just a thought for me, it was the only thing keeping me alive. Life in her modest apartment was a stark contrast to the luxury I had known. The marble floors and chandeliers of our home were replaced with creaking wooden boards and a single ceiling fan that barely worked. Her 2 sons treated me kindly but avoided me like I was a ghost haunting their lives. Maybe I was. School was no escape. My classmates whispered behind my back, their words cutting deeper than knives. "Did you hear? Her whole family was poisoned. By her uncle, right? Maybe she helped him. Shh, she might hear you." I buried myself in books, not out of a love for learning, but because knowledge was my weapon. Every free moment I had, I spent researching about poisons, about inheritance disputes, and most importantly, about Uncle Chike. This was just the beginning of my suffering. Uncle Chike made my life a living hell after few months of burying my parents and siblings. Sit back as I share my life story in the next video.